Hi, I'm Gareth Green, and in this video we're going to try and answer a question that many people have. What is the difference between an appoggiatura and a suspension? Which sounds like it's going to be a great joke, but actually it's not a joke at all. It's a serious musical question. So, an appoggiatura, this is Italian for leaning note. So when you play an appoggiatura, it's always a dissonance. So you lean on it to squeeze out the dissonance, and then it resolves onto something that belongs to a chord. So let's just write an appoggiatura so we've got some idea what we might be talking about here. So if I give you an approach to one, that will give us a bit of context as well, won't it? So if we did something like this, there's a couple of bars of music, and then we'll just stick a bass in here. So it's a fairly kind of basic example. Okay, so what's happening in this piece of music? It sounds like this. Okay, now where is the appoggiatura? The appoggiatura is here. Now, how do we know that's an appoggiatura? Well, all the other notes belong to the chords that are going on at the time. So, what are the chords? We're in C major. Here's a chord 2. Here's a chord 2 in first inversion. Here's a chord 5. Here's a chord 1. So you can see that all these notes belong to their respective chords, but this D in the second bar, the second measure, doesn't belong, does it, to chord 1? Chord 1 in C major is C, E, G, so what's D doing there? But you can hear it's a dissonance, and we're leaning on that dissonance and allowing it to resolve onto the following note, the C that follows it, that belongs to the chord. So hear that again. So you can feel that dissonance resolving. If I took the appoggiatura out, it would be this. Okay, put it in. And quite often it's written as an ornament, and it's just written as a small note. So you might find a little note like this, and then a bigger note like this, and quite often it's just got a little mark like that. So if it's written as an ornament, a sort of half-size note with a little slur onto the full note, well, that's what's going on here. So that would be written as an ornament, but I'm writing it out in full so we can kind of see what's actually going on with this thing. Okay, so that's how an appoggiatura works. It's always a dissonant note, and it has to resolve by step. Now you can step down or you can step up, but you can't leap following the appoggiatura. So always follow it by step. You can see this one is going down by step at that point, isn't it? Okay, so that's how the appoggiatura works. Let me just reinstate these notes so we know what we're dealing with. Okay, now in a suspension, we've got something very similar to an appoggiatura, but we have to prepare it. When we write a suspension, it's important that we've got 3 stages, P, S, R. So P for prepare, S for suspend, R for resolve. Okay, the P and the S notes need to be the same as each other. And when we move to R, we have to move by step, normally downwards. I say normally because there are occasions when it might just move up, but certainly it has to move by step, normally downwards. The P note will belong to the chord that's sounding at the time. The R note will belong to the chord that's sounding at the time, and the suspend note will be dissonant. So you can see it's working in a similar way to the appoggiatura. Okay, now if I wanted to get this example that I've written up here to be a suspension rather than an appoggiatura, then actually I need to change this note so that it's the same as the note that follows. So let's see if we can deal with that. So if I decided that I'm just going to have this as that note, then you can see what's going on now, because now we can look at this and say P, S, R. Sorry, I haven't got all the stem directions organised properly in the top part. Doesn't really matter. But do you see what's going on here? Talking about prepare, suspend, resolve. P is the note that belongs to this chord 5. P is the same note as S. S goes to R by step, normally downwards. S is dissonant. So there are only two chords. There's the chord that goes with P and there's the chord that goes with R, but S is the dissonant note. So this is now a suspension. So the big difference is it's either prepared, in which case it's a suspension, or it's not prepared, in which case it's an appoggiatura. So I hope that just sort of spells out the difference there. Now, we can do something with this to kind of turn it into, say, a more exciting situation where we've got double suspensions, for example. Oh, let's see if we can alter what we've got just to show how this works. And then we might do something just slightly different this time, just to show you how this could work. Okay, and then I'm going to sort of keep the bass line the same, I think. But then let's just add in another part so we can kind of make this a double suspension. Okay, so now I've written this. Okay, so I wonder if you can see what's going on. I've got one suspension here that's going P, S, R. And I've got another suspension going here that's also going P, S, R at the same time. Okay, now the PSR at the top is giving you an example of a suspension that's resolving upwards. So I said most of the time they resolve downwards by step. Sometimes you'll get one that resolves up by step when you've got a double or even a triple suspension. And this is an example of what's going on here. And then the way we label it is we say this top suspension is 7/8. Now, why is it 7/8? We've got C in the bass, and this top one is going from the 7th to the 8th when I'm moving from S to R. So we just described SR, and it's going 7/8 above that bass note. The other one, the lower part, at the same time is going 4/3. And again, I'm just describing S to R, I'm not describing P. But you can see with both those suspensions, when you look at the notes for P, they both belong to the previous chord. I mean, we're using the same chord pattern that we used last time. The only thing that I've done now is to turn this 5 into a 5/7. So a dominant 7th chord. Okay, so you can hear the top part. That B belongs to the 5/7, so that's the P. Then I have to use the same note again for S, and I'm resolving by step, this time upwards, 7/8. And then the lower part of this right hand, A, then F, it's the 7th of a 5/7, and I'm having to use the 5/7 to create the F there, so I can repeat it for S, going down by step to R, and because it's going F, E, it's going 4-3 above the bass. So if I didn't have the suspension at all, it could just be this. Sounds all right? Just sounds rather better. But if for some reason I just wanted that to be a double appoggiatura, all I would do would be to dispense with P. In other words, I wouldn't be preparing those notes. So I might do something different on the approach. So I'm not preparing them with that P, I'm coming at them from somewhere else. And I'm effectively just going SR without the P. So that would make it an appoggiatura. So there's not much between these two things, but they do cause confusion. So if you're trying to identify these in a bit of analysis of some music, or you're trying to write them, it's just being really clear about what makes a suspension PSR, and it's got to behave in the way that I described. But if you kind of just see SR, well, and you're looking at S following all the same description, it's dissonant with the chord, it's resolving upwards or downwards by step, well then it's an appoggiatura. So I hope this just makes that difference very clear, so there's no need for any confusion in that front going forwards.